Hello, it's been a while.
Hey, Chase. How are you? Yes, it has been a while.
Doing well.
Oh, hello, Heron. Hope you're doing well too.
How you doing,
Thank
Heron?
you for listening in on our podcast.
Top advice for aspiring philosophers. So, Brandon, what's this about today?
Right. So, topic of discussion today is top advice for aspiring philosophers, and we're going to be covering the recent video that was posted from actualize.org. And yeah, so it was a long video. And I thought Leo touched upon a lot of good points. Let me try to see if I can ping the link to the video here. Chase, would you mind sharing your thoughts, what you thought of that video? It was a long one, I know. It was like over 3 hours.
Yeah, Leo saying a lot about philosophy, like picks, but saying what I agree with is that he's saying that the teaching philosophy, they're just teaching a course on the history of philosophy. And he's saying that philosophy is done many hours of contemplation by yourself, having direct experience with philosophical idea questions.
Mm-hmm.
University professors just want you to read the.
Oh, hey, Heron, how are you doing?
Hey. Yeah, I decided a long time ago there was a big difference between being a philosopher and a historian of philosophy. And you can read Plato. My degree was in philosophy, and
Oh,
so I read
really?
all that.
Oh,
And,
yeah, yeah,
but
sorry, go ahead.
well, anyway, it's just basically to be a philosopher, you don't need to know Plato, or Kant or Hume or any of. I mean, it's nice if you're interested in that shit, but starting from the 20th century, you can start there. You can ignore most of that shit unless you're interested in the history of philosophy. So that's what I have to say. Thanks.
So, Heron, have you actually studied some of the older philosophies, or
Well, I have a degree in it, so I've read a whole bunch.
Oh, of course, right,
Yeah.
Okay, did any of them what philosopher resonates with you, or
Well,
what
actually,
school?
yeah, yeah, almost none of them resonated with me. I got into it because of other reasons. When I started reading the philosophers, the traditional philosophers, I liked Spinoza. I thought Spinoza was kind of cool. Everyone else I thought was a waste of time until I got to Wittgenstein. All 20th century stuff I thought was pretty interesting, but all the old stuff. Heidegger, Jesus Christ, I've tried. Has anyone here read Heidegger?
I haven't read Heidegger,
No.
but Heidegger sounds very promising. All of the anecdotal things I've heard about Heidegger sound very fantastic.
Well, I've heard there are a lot of people I really respect who like Heidegger, who think Heidegger is great. I've tried to read Being and Time, or I don't know, 4 or 5 times. I can never get past the first page. It just totally doesn't make any sense at all to me. I think the guy's crazy. Yeah, in any case, Wittgenstein is about as far back as I go in philosophy.
Hey, Chase, can you make me an mod so that I can ping the link?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, there we go. All right, so, Heron, did I mention to you about actualize.org or no?
No, I don't think so.
Really, you haven't watched that channel? Okay.
No, I don't know about it.
Oh,
Please send
yeah.
it to me in the back channel. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. I'll send you the link to his channel, and then I'm gonna ping the link this recent,
Who is
not
the
recent
guy?
video. I think it was posted like about almost a month ago. I think he's on like hiatus or something.
Who's the
Right?
guy that you're talking about?
Leo Gura.
Leo. How do you spell his last name?
Gura. Leo Gura. But
Leo.
he is, yeah, Gura. But you can just Google actualize.org and
Okay.
you'll see it pop up there. And he posts content on his website, and he also posts content on his YouTube channel. It covers a variety of topics, personal development, metaphysics, spirituality. Chase, I think, Chase, do you resonate with anything that Leo
So wait,
talks about?
what is it? Actualize dot what? .org?
Actualize.org. I can, let me just
No,
text
I just typed it in.
Oh, okay, great.
I just
Hold on. All right, let me see if I can find the link and ping it to the channel. So, I guess one question that I know Heron can't answer because he doesn't watch Leo's content, but for Chase, as far as like Leo is concerned, do you think his video was good for providing advice to philosophers, or do you think, do you have any other like insights?
So I don't think it was exactly good. He does say that he likes to keep it simple for like these philosophical ideas. He's reached a level where you can explain it to a child, and that's great and everything. But I think the video is like 3.5 hours long. Most of it is fluff, in my opinion. He's not really saying anything in particular, but the overall idea I gathered from it is that people are going to be ignorant and not listen to you. And no matter what you say to them, they're just not going to listen to you. So you have to do your philosophical endeavors by yourself.
Yeah, people are a bunch of fucking brain damaged language monkeys. You can't talk with them. They don't care. They don't think. Yeah. You're better off as a hermit.
Agreed. So I do want to nitpick a little bit about what he's saying. Like overall I agree that like philosophy is not like reading what these old white men said, but he's saying like in order to be an established philosopher that he respects, like you need to own a house and a car. I don't really.
Wait, that was in one of his political videos, correct? Or is that also in the same video?
That was the video from today.
Oh, and today too, and he mentioned the same thing today.
You need to own a house.
Yeah.
To be
for him to respect.
Yeah, I guess.
A car, maybe. I don't know about a house.
Well, I don't think about owning a house. I think because most people, have to pay a mortgage or something. I think.
Well, most people don't own a house. Most people pay.
Pay rent, of course, or live in an apartment or whatever. But I think what he was, that's the other thing too, is like, should that even be like, is that even a good point? Should that even be factored in when it comes to philosophy? Because as far as I know, I'm sure you can find some intelligent and wise people, even if they, are like don't come from a affluent background or are not.
Well, that's just fucking absurd. You need to own a car and a house to be a philosopher. That guy should be taken out and shot. Well, maybe not quite so harsh.
Well, that's. I am so glad, Heron, that you joined this, because, like I said, most of it was supposed to be kind of an analysis into this current video from actualize.org, but it's also just like in general, because we don't have to necessarily just talk about all the points that were discussed within the video, but just any kind of I like to invite other people on the stage, and if they had any advice for philosophers, or I don't know, just asking the basic question: what does philosophy mean to
Yeah,
them?
how do you define philosophy? What is it
Right.
for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Because to me, there's two. Well, if you talk about metaphysics and epistemology as the two major divisions, as far as I'm concerned, metaphysics is a form of linguistic malfunction, and epistemology is the only valuable thing in philosophy, and that's about to be taken away from philosophers by the neuroscientists. So that
Can
will be.
you describe linguistic malfunction in the
Yeah,
deeper
yeah,
terms?
yeah. Explain what you mean by
Well,
that.
primarily it has to do with the problem with the noun structure in English, reifications. Have either of you guys heard my podcast on the 5 stupidities of English?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's the primary stuff. Is reifications is just a major problem in philosophy, because they're talking about all these abstractions and they never really define what the fuck they're talking about. Those words could mean anything to anybody.
That is true. Chase, didn't we? Wasn't that something that, if you remember, John Gabriel harped upon, as far as like clearly defining concepts?
Yes.
Even though it's not, even though we don't have to necessarily lock it into Platonic philosophy, but just in general, actually like define and know what the hell you're talking about.
Anytime you're involved in any kind of problem solving activity, it's different than when you're out bowling with your buddies getting drunk. But if you're involved in any kind of problem solving, if there's any question about the definition of these abstract terms, those have to be straightened out, or you're just not going to get anywhere.
Yes, agreed. So what John is saying is not reification of words, but reification of mathematical concepts.
I don't really understand that. Reification is usually just seen as a linguistic concept. I've never. You can. Well, yeah, I'm not quite sure what that means.
I am not 100% sure on how John Gabriel uses reification, but it's mostly about like points, lines, triangles. I don't know how exactly those are reified.
Okay. Well, do you know what I mean by reification?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to guess. So words having different definitions.
No, okay, it's relative. So there are two kinds of nouns in English: substantive nouns and reifications. Substantive nouns are things you can put in a bucket. That was what we were all taught when we were a kid. A noun is a person, place, or thing. Eyeglasses, iPods, doorknob, chair, monitor, desk, book, all of those are substantive nouns, things you can put in a bucket. Trees, mountains, if you have a big enough bucket. But then there are a whole other class of words, reifications, like freedom, dignity, honor, intelligence, integrity, on and on and on. None of them are things. None of them are things. They don't exist. They're relationships between things. That's an entirely different class of reality, to use a really terrible word. Yeah, all those are not things. There is no such thing as love or democracy or freedom. They're relationships between things, and the failure to keep that distinction clear just leads to endless arguments and nonsense and waste of time.
So to me, that sounds like I've been listening to this guy named Legal Man. He's saying that those things are what the lawyers use in their legalese. They're called Barnum statements, which is what reification is, what you're describing.
Well, I've never heard of that, so I don't know what he's
It's
talking
basically
about.
the
But
same
Can you
thing.
just get good? Oh, okay. Really, it's the same thing in legalese.
It's called a Barnum statement.
I have never heard.
What is called a what?
Yeah, what is? Yeah, what the hell?
A reification is a specific word. It's not a statement. It's just a word. A reification is a word. So when you're saying it's the same thing, but it's a statement, I'm thinking it's not the same thing. You're talking about something different.
Yes. So in the legal world, when people use, so like, people will get more freedom if this law is enacted. But what is freedom? That's just a Barnum statement.
Well, it's not. Freedom isn't a statement. Freedom is a word, first of all. So a statement usually involves, a verb and a subject and all that shit. So it's not a statement.
True. The whole phrase would be a statement that contains the reification.
Okay, so the whole sentence,
Yes.
any sentence that contains a reification is called a Barnum or whatever
That's
it is.
correct.
Barnum statement.
Okay, all right. Well, all right, but I don't. Anyway, that doesn't really clarify anything. It's just a sentence that uses that uses a reification. Okay. Yeah, and there's plenty of them. Well, that's just about all of philosophy is nothing but a bunch of Barnum statements.
I have to agree with you there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, what do you guys think about chakras and airy fairy stuff? This is what Leo was talking about.
I mean, in the context of spirituality,
Yes.
or maybe it doesn't even have to be, I guess, spirituality. Maybe it can be like some form of energy. I don't know, like, Aaron, I don't know if you could relate to these kind of concepts, because I don't know if you've had any kind of direct experiences with this type of phenomena or no. When it comes to chakras and
Reiki, energy work.
Reiki.
Leo was mostly opposed to these ideas. Personally, I don't have any experience with this, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I question myself if regarding the type of experiences that I've had, if they're really considered a quote unquote spiritual experience. But yeah, um, yeah, I'm kind of torn about that as far as how you define it. Is there any experience you can really pinpoint to, or does everyone just have their own experiences of it? It's a good question, though. It's a good thing to ponder.
What's the question again?
Chase, what was the question?
Is the idea of chakras, Reiki, and energy work, is that any way philosophical?
It's not even meaningful. Those are, again, undefined reifications. All of them.
So that is what Leo is saying. Like, you can't describe any of these for any real purpose.
Well, you can give definitions, but they're for the purpose of this conversation, and I'm using this word to mean this thing. And it's not anything you can go test or anything. You just define it however you want to define it. The other person either accepts that or doesn't. And then you go on with the discussion or you end the discussion.
Very well said. And another point I would like to mention is that Leo said you need to trip at least 100 times to be a philosopher.
See, that's okay.
And I think that's very funny with Heron in the room.
Yeah,
Heron, you want to talk about this? Because
well, drugs have been absolutely essential in my life. So, and they've also destroyed many people's lives too. So you figure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know that kind of advice will necessarily apply to anyone as far as.
Well, not everybody, obviously.
Yeah, the pursuit of philosophy, or in the context of the pursuit of philosophy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Yeah.
or maybe even spiritual development too. But even then, that is, as far as taking psychedelics and tripping, and I don't know, that's just been, it's a whole other can of worms. It's like,
Well, it changes everything.
oh yeah,
That
I know.
changes every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Brandon, have you ever tripped?
No, I mean, no, I've never taken psychedelics.
Well, what about weed? You ever smoke weed? You must have done that.
Actually, now that you mention it, I did a few times with Chase. Chase, you remember that?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if you actually felt anything or if it worked for you or if
No,
you
I
took enough.
definitely
You
felt
did feel
relaxed.
it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
did. I did feel a lot more relaxed.
Relax. The first time I smoked weed, I hallucinated wildly.
Really?
It it was astonishing. I never I was like 20, I guess, and I never had ever even imagined that it was possible to experience shit like that. I mean, that just was so far out of my reality that I never really recovered from that. That just floored me. I didn't know that was available.
You smoked weed and you hallucinated.
Wildly, yes, it was.
Wow, I don't know. I don't recall hallucinating. But then again, I don't even know. Jace, what kind of dose did I smoke back then?
That's the thing. I don't know if you inhaled correctly. You might have just gotten like a very small dose.
Well, and different people respond differently to the drug. I don't respond at all to LSD, psilocybin, or DMT. They don't work on me.
See, I
I
haven't
don't know
checked.
why.
I haven't tried those, so I don't know, that could have a different effect on me. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
So,
For me, my first experience smoking weed, what I noticed was that I was on the beach looking at a volleyball post, and this was like a minute after I smoked, and I was just staring at the volleyball post, and then I realized I couldn't remember how long I was staring at it. I had no recollection of how long I was staring at it, and I looked at the sand, and then I forgot I was with people, and I was looking at the people, and then I asked them how long it's been, and they're like, I don't know, just enjoy it. And then,
they told you not to worry about
yeah, they told me not to worry
recollected
about
time
it.
or whatever was going on.
Yeah, they're just like, Chase, it's you're high. Calm down. I'm like, dude, this changes everything. Like I don't even know what time is anymore.
Yeah.
I want some chocolate chip cookies.
No,
Yep. That's it.
yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
All right. So, Heron, what would be the first advice you would give to someone who wants to learn about philosophy?
Jesus. Um, Go study something else.
He's something. All right.
Go study booking.
QAD. Just everyone leave the podcast. That's Heron's advice 101. Don't even pursue philosophy. No, but really, Heron, on a serious note,
Well,
like if
okay.
you.
Well, I'm serious too because
Okay.
I mean, I think we have to define philosophy because for me, it began when I read a book by Alan Watts and my entire life collapsed. All of a sudden, I was faced with this realization that I didn't have a clue who I was, what the fucking world was, how I got here, what's going on, what I can do, what I can't do, what I should do, what I shouldn't. The whole goddamn story just collapsed, and I was left trying to figure out what the hell's going on. That's philosophy.
So, yeah, I get the sense that there's really no way a single human can really transfer philosophical ideas to another human. It has to come within themselves.
Right. Yeah, I can agree with you on that.
Well, you can say words, you can be good at saying words, and that can be helpful.
Sure. Right.
I mean, yeah, you can. Sometimes Alan Watts did it. Alan Watts, a book he wrote, I was reading, and within 5 seconds of reading a particular sentence, my entire life collapsed
True.
because somebody put some words on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I can do that for sure. So you had that experience of Alan Watts. Who else did you read where you had that kind of experience?
I've had like 3 writers that have changed my life, in each one in a different way. Alfred Korzybski was second. That was what got me into linguistics. And Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near got me back in the game, because I knew the world was changing before, but I figured it would be 100 years before anything I was doing would be acceptable. But once I read Kurzweil's stuff, I realized, no, this is going way faster than I had anticipated, and that the stuff I had learned and studied was actually important now. And so it got me back in the game.
I have a question for either of you. What do you think drives philosophers to write down their wisdom?
Ego.
Sure. I was gonna say that too. I remember when I would listen to John talk, that he would talk about that
John who?
John Gabriel.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you don't know him. He's the mathematician. But I
Oh,
do remember when I listened to him at the time that be careful if what you read from philosophers. Or at least he was talking about ancient Greek philosophers, but that you can even apply this throughout the test of time. That it came from the time, even though they were trying to speak, as if they were wise, but in reality they were just trying to like outdo one another. If you know what I mean, like outdo other philosophers, that
I
quote
don't know
unquote.
that. Yes, I think you'd really have to sit down and talk with a person and know them before you could figure that kind of stuff out. I mean, that sounds like it may be true partially for some, more for others, but um, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Yes, why did Kant spend all that time writing that shit?
Well, you meant that's the thing, you mentioned ego, so I was just wanting to know from your point of view, if you know any philosophers or anyone that whatever they wrote down, it's like, okay, they were serious about the quote unquote pursuit of wisdom and truth.
Probably they all, prefer to think of themselves as contributing and being helpful to people.
Sure.
Wittgenstein's one of my favorite ones, and he's a good example. And Alan Watts, who I'm not sure you'd call him a philosopher, but he was trying to be useful, I think.
Is that noise in the background?
I think Karen's
Hold
making
on,
dinner at the moment. Yeah, he's gonna make some food. But
Sure.
Brandon,
Yes.
do you, in your experience living on this earth so far, do you would you consider yourself a philosopher?
It's a very interesting question that I actually had pondered when I was walking home, for from the gym, as far as how, I guess the first question, and I think Heron can touch upon this too, is how do we how would we define a philosopher? What are the attributes of a philosopher? Um, to me, even if you make a claim or a statement and you string it together through reasoning, and then as far as the pursuit of truth and wisdom, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. Heron mentions how on the one hand, philosophy can be kind of a waste of time because, like, where can it really lead? Can it really lead anywhere? Is it kind of a waste of time to think that my mind can generate and stumble upon the truth regarding anything, or is it just all a bunch of constructs that's made up? It's
Well, even if they're made up, they might still be useful.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you, and thank you for chiming in, Aaron.
Yes, mathematics is a good example.
Absolutely. Mathematics can be very valuable, can be very useful. So, Aaron, I mean, do you, I guess, would you regard yourself as a philosopher, or you?
No.
No, yeah.
I mean, I understand that other people may think I am. I consider myself, well, an epistemologer.
Right, yeah, sure, absolutely.
A wise guy, even.
A wise
guy here. Yeah. Yeah, you do have a way with words, Aaron, and you do tell some great stories, I must say. They're quite memorable. So, Chase, since that is my response, what about you? Would you regard yourself as a philosopher, or yeah?
So a philosopher, what that means to me is someone who loves wisdom. But for me, is wisdom like an objective thing that
No,
can be
wisdom is
quantified?
another one of those reifications.
There we go. There we go with the the reification thing. Yeah.
So does it matter to someone else if I tell them I'm a philosopher? Does that mean anything?
Depends on who you tell that to.
Right. Yeah. It would depend.
Do they speak English?
Can they speak English? That's true too. The they could probably not know the language, or you could even tell someone you're a philosopher, and they'll probably even ask you the question, "What is a philosopher?" And what do you do?
Yeah. How do you make a living?
Right. Yeah. How do you make? Well, it's actually funny you say that, because Chase, would you say that Leo, to some extent, tries to make quote unquote a living as a philosopher, or maybe he's just some guy on the internet just trying to sound like smart, but maybe. But if you just think a little bit about it, you can probably take apart some of the things he says, and it may not be as truthful or correct as he thinks it is.
So, yeah, is Leo a professional philosopher? That's kind of pushing it. I think he's very good at talking and saying what's on his mind, but being a professional philosopher, yeah, that's pushing it for me.
Well, being a professional means you make a living at it, or at least you make money at it. That's what being professional means.
Yeah, he talks on YouTube, so he could be a professional podcaster or...
Right. Yeah. Right.
Well, does he make enough money to survive on that or does he go to work at the gas station Monday through Friday?
No. Well, no. I think as far as how Leo usually makes his money through Patreon, and I know he has one course which is called the Life Purpose course on actualize.org, and I think he also monetizes on his videos. Chase?
Okay, so
How many subscribers does he have?
Well, I know he has over 1 million, right?
oh wow, okay, so he's a professional. Hell yes.
Yeah. I would definitely say that Leo Gura is a professional, but so Chase, you just don't agree, even though he makes a living as a professional. And I know part of the topics he talks about are related to philosophy. You just don't agree with all of his views.
Yes, is he a professional self-help coach?
Okay, yeah, he may not be a professional philosopher. Yeah.
I mean, he touches
self-help.
upon philosophy, but I don't.
Yeah.
But he touches upon many different types of topics. It's not just,
Yeah.
on philosophy. He does touch upon epistemology. Does touch upon on self-help topics. Heck, he even touches upon like how to get laid. He had
Okay.
like a 3-part series on
The
that.
really important stuff. Yes.
Yeah, there's some practical. Yeah, there's some practical content.
Well, I don't think it's really important whether we end up deciding on what label to put on him, whether he's a philosopher or a consultant or, or whatever the fuck he is.
Yeah, yeah. I just know that he.
What he does is what counts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to think with the content he does produce on YouTube that they tries to help people. Now, whether or not I do think even though he I don't know, he has like a lot of crazy ideas, like yeah, like I think because he's taken like too much 5-MeO DMT. He I think he believes that he has like stumbled upon some like absolute truth as far about God and reality, and I think in that
Claiming to be omniscient.
yeah, that's the part, and I think that he's been taking. I think the psychedelics, have gone to him from tripping way too much. You know what I mean? So I don't. I'm starting. I'm like completely skeptical about that, and I kind of take what he says with a grain of salt. I do think by listening to him, maybe the universe could be alluding to something, but I don't think it should be taken as fact. And I do think,
Well, do you get anything out of listening to him?
From what from the videos that you watch?
Well, all that you're talking about his stuff being potentially. I'm just curious whether you get any value out of his work.
Yeah, I mean, from in the past, yes, I have gotten value from during like from years ago, because back then, actually, I watched the first video of his on his channel back in like 2015. I think the video that resonated with me had to do with advice he would give to high school students and college students, which I thought
the ones who want to get laid.
Exactly. Well, the ones who want to get laid. That was one out of many other topics that were discussed in the video, but excellent point here. So, so that was one video, and I thought, oh, this guy's, is pretty cool. Actually, believe it or not, I think when I originally was getting involved with watching his content, that was probably my motive at the time, was to get laid. Go figure. So
it was always part of my philosophical plan.
Well, there you go. I'm glad. Thank you for being honest, Aaron. Thank you. Speaking for the rest of us guys on the podcast.
Some women really get off on philosophers, man. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's see. So yeah, like I said, top advice. It's funny because like top advice for aspiring philosophers. So we have Heron telling us to just don't even bother pursuing. Well, there has to be some. Well, Heron, there's got to be. Maybe you can play devil's advocate here. I mean, like what benefits can people have from either studying philosophy or just having, I guess, that kind of, philosophical mindset.
I've got a story for all that. I don't actually believe that it's the truth, the way the world is really structured. But
go ahead, tell us the story.
Well, I think you might have heard it before. But the Earth is a living organism undergoing a kind of metamorphosis right now. Humans are embedded subsystems of the living Earth, and all of our old stories are out of date, and we're going to have to invent a whole new world in the next few decades. And philosophy is for those people who are waking up, and starting to question all of the stuff that they were programmed with as children, and finding that those old programs and stories don't work anymore. And philosophy is somewhat involved in all of that somehow.
Okay. So, Heron, would you say that philosophy kind of ties in more with science? It's more like the pursuit of science. Or no, or not really.
Well, it depends. What science is just knowledge. That's just
I know. Yeah,
knowledge.
right.
So, science is one approach.
Sure.
A very specific approach.
Right, science.
There are others.
Of course, sure.
And I don't actually understand the question, I guess.
Chase, do you know what? Do you have any thoughts on what I asked, or
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what's the question?
Well, I'm more responding to what Heron said from his story. Is that as far as this whole metamorphosis, that does philosophy also kind of align with or lead to like science? Like when we try to answer these questions, it is done more from like a scientific approach.
Yes. So these ideas are, to me, it's similar to what makes humans different from animals. Like, did they evolve? Because the evolution of the planet is evolving. Can we as humans evolve to something greater?
Okay.
For me, when you say what makes humans different than animals, it's real simple. It's language, and not just language, but written language.
Right.
That's the one thing that no other being on this planet does.
Yeah. Language.
Do you think it could be like, well, I've been playing with AI art, and your profile picture, Brandon, is AI generated.
Yes, it is.
So maybe it could be like the emergence of a collaboration between artificial intelligence, which I don't think is intelligent, it's just algorithms, and humans seeing their potential through an accelerated process of artificial intelligence.
I have no idea what you just said.
So let's say you don't know how to draw a dog, but you type into a computer a dog doing a backflip, and then it'll create art that no one's ever seen before of a dog doing a backflip. You have no idea how to draw, but you created this art through an algorithm.
Yes, and
can you learn at a faster rate using these algorithms, like saying not just art, but hypothetical scenarios, like, will I be successful at this job? And if the AI says no, then you don't take that job, you go do something else.
Well, if it was a good AI, and if it really did know you well, I suspect we will have something like that in the not too distant future. I mean, a lot of kids now have their own iPads, and I'm assuming
exactly.
in a few years there will be a digital assistant somehow that just grows up with a kid.
That's what I was thinking of too. Like, that we would have more, sophisticated tools regarding technology to, solve problems more efficiently and creatively, intelligently.
And it could actually know you. I mean, it could actually keep track of every word you've ever spoken and everything you've read on there.
That's
and
true,
it knows
too. That would be interesting.
all your emails, everything you've said, all this stuff it can analyze all that. I mean, when we get sufficient AI, that could be your own personal assistant.
Your own personal philosopher.
Right, your own personal
Well,
philosophy.
epistemologer.
Epistemologer. Okay, yeah, that would probably be a better term for epistemologer. Trying to remember what Chase do you. Well, were there any other any other points from the video that you can recall that Leo talked about that you either agreed or disagreed with that we can kind of touch upon in the podcast?
Yes. So he said if you actually want to be a philosopher, you would just have to ask the simplest questions like, where do we come from? What is everything? And just ask these to yourself, contemplate it, go out in the world, experience it, have experience, tell your story of your experience. That's what I agree with. Become a storyteller.
Who do you tell your story to?
First, I write down my stories. So I tell them to myself first. And then if someone, like, if I'm going bowling and I want to make a connection with someone, I will tell them a story about myself and maybe ask them a story that they've have experienced and get some wisdom from them.
What are your thoughts on that, Heron?
That just sounds like normal life. That doesn't sound like philosophy. Well, again, philosophy. I don't think most people are really up for philosophy. I think it's a minority
That honest
position.
that I can definitely agree with you on. It is
Some
well,
people, I talk about the itch. Some people have an itch. They just want to know some shit that nobody else really gives a shit about. You
yeah,
know,
right,
most
sure.
people just want a new car and a wife with bigger tits, and that's enough for them. But a few of us have got these weird urges to understand all this esoteric bullshit about the nature of reality and the universe and everything. But I think it's a relatively small percentage of people.
I probably associate myself more with philosophers. Like I would talk about philosophical ideas even if they're not interested.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Chase, like I
Well, I
mean,
learned to do
Chase.
that.
So I guess I'm curious the responses that you've gotten from some people. Do they just think you're strange, or do they like think you're like an alien, or do they think, wow, this guy maybe says some woke shit, even though they don't really contemplate these things as deeply either?
They probably just think he's an arrogant asshole.
Well, yeah,
That's what I've gotten when
well, yeah.
I
Hmm.
found philosophically to people who don't give a shit about it. They don't usually like it.
Most of the time, pretty quiet. But luckily, I've learned how to talk to people normally if I care about that.
If I care about that.
But I I just save my philosophical ideas for talking on YouTube, and if people ask me questions, I'll just tell them what I think I know the answer is. It might not be the right answer, but it's my answer.
That is true. That is very true. Yeah, I'm sure people will listen to Heron and they either agree with him or they will just carry on. So maybe that's advice we could probably tell anyone that wants to be aspiring philosophers. Is that be careful who you tell it to, because
Well, just because you have something to say is no reason to say it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No.
Sometimes it's appreciated, but often nobody gives a shit.
Right. Yeah. That is very true.
What I would give to aspiring philosophers is exactly what Heron said. Don't try to be a philosopher. But if you just happen to write things down and people come to you and they're looking for answers, that's up to you to give them your answer. But does that make someone a philosopher? I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think of myself as a philosopher.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I know some people might think that and think it's and I can see how that would be appropriate for some people to think that, but that's not the way I think.
So you probably touched upon this before. You could remind us. Do you think anyone is an actual philosopher, like legit, or is it?
Well, sure,
Like,
college professors who have PhDs in philosophy and write books about philosophy and become famous for having written books about philosophy. Yeah, you know,
okay.
Bertrand Russell, Alfred North Whitehead,
Yep.
I mean, all those guys.
Yeah. Okay. So mostly, I guess in academia primarily.
Yeah.
Like
Well, and there are a few people outside of academia who have
that.
made.
Yeah, that's why I was saying. Like like, I guess that would be kind of like my follow up question is, can whether they're not from academia, can they still be considered philosophers,
I
or
think you have to write a book. I think
okay?
I think that's
Good. It's great
really
advice.
that.
Write a good technical book. Well, I guess it probably should be technical, right? Technical
Well,
book on philosophy.
well, I guess I don't know, but I think you got to have a book or at least some essays and have some
Hmm.
word. Have some people that are impressed by it. You know.
That's interesting. You mentioned about impressed, but I don't know. I think if you are like an honest and legit philosopher, I mean, even if I guess the words that are put together in the phrases or whatever, well, is it I guess true? But then again, most people probably don't really give a shit about whatever the truth is and that kind of wisdom. So
Well, truth is another one of those reifications. Man,
yeah,
what
I
the
know.
fuck does
Yeah,
that
right.
mean? I have no idea what that word means.
Yep. There we go. There we go. So right. So one of those reification issues. So yeah, maybe maybe philosophy is just could be just related to the social game. I mean, I don't know. I guess or is there?
Well, of course,
But
philosophy is one of those reifications
yeah.
itself. There isn't any such thing as philosophy. There's just people's definitions for what they mean when they use that word. And there isn't
Mhm.
any place where you can go to sort that out.
Yeah. Right. Very, very good to ponder. Good to know. Good. Mhm.
Brandon, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How would you define meta philosophy?
That was actually, yeah, that was actually, if I look at my notes here, I actually like wanted to ask that, wanted to know what you guys thought about, like, what is, meta philosophy or metaphysics, but I know, Heron, you were like, wanted to just throw out that term metaphysics, if I recall, right?
Well, yeah, metaphysics or ontology. I mean,
Mhm.
metaphysics is sort of the general popular word, but
Yeah.
ontology, technically.
Ontology, okay.
Yeah.
You said the only thing that's important is epistemology, just throw out metaphysics and ontology, right?
Well, I mean, I tend to overstate the case sometimes, but yeah, I say
Okay.
generally speaking, metaphysics is a form of linguistic pathology.
Okay. So, if we asked you, you know, what is like meta philosophy, how would you define that? Or do you think that would be an appropriate term? Or, philosophy, or thinking
What
about philosophy.
do you mean by meta? I mean, metaphysics merely meant that it was the book after physics. So meta has a lot of different meanings. Um, Yeah,
Has
meta.
anybody ever? Has anybody? Well, have you even heard the term meta philosophy or no?
I can't recall hearing it before, but I mean, I've heard meta with everything, so I probably have heard that. I mean, you can have, you know, you can probably
Okay.
have meta ice cream. Who knows?
Meta, yeah, like that's another good question to think about. Is does it make sense to use meta for any word or certain words or
Yeah, yeah. And then there's quantum. I've read
yeah,
like a
quantum, right? Got
quantum
quantum
psychology,
physics,
quantum
right?
sexuality, and quantum.
Quantum six. That's
Now,
that's
I'm
never
not.
heard of that.
Quantum
I
is
never
the
heard of quantum
worst.
six. Wow, wow, good point. Good. Okay. Um, Chase, let's ask you, Chase. What do you think about meta philosophy? Or you think
For
it was
me, meta philosophy would be philosophy that I came up with. That's meta to me.
philosophy that I came up with? Hmm.
What did? I, you have a very different definition of meta than I do.
What does meta mean to you, Heron? Or what do you think the
Well,
correct
originally it just simply meant after metaphysics. I
after
mean,
after physics? Oh, okay,
yeah, it was the book that came after physics. He didn't know what to call it. It wasn't physics, but it was the next book, and so he called it metaphysics. So he didn't know what the fuck he was talking about.
wow, okay, that's interesting.
So
Uh,
yeah,
could
well,
okay,
I mean, it's defined as what the theory of being, But I mean,
sure.
that just is meaningless. Being, what the fuck does that mean?
What the fuck does be?
You know,
In
we have these words, we hear them all the time, we use them all the time, and when you really stop and ask, what the hell does that mean? I don't know.
all right. I don't know. It's like even though people will claim that they know, but it's like, do they really? The words that they
What
mean.
does it even mean to say I
Yeah.
know something?
Right. Right.
I mean, in some cases it's simple, I mean, if you have practiced for years and you play the piano, you can say, I know how to play the piano.
Sure.
And you can sit down and play it.
Right.
And that's one sort of simple kind of knowledge. But boy, in philosophy, it gets really confusing really quickly.
Yeah. That I can definitely agree with you on that. Plus, there's like different, schools of philosophy, and who really knows, you know, where those are going to go, and then you have people that claim that they know or think or make statements like absolute truth or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Well, thank goodness that God knows the truth. And so, we're all saved, except for those of us who are going to hell.
Maybe
How do
we
you
should.
know we're not in it right now?
Um,
Well, this ain't hell. This is great. I love, this must be heaven. This
That's
ain't hell.
definitely heaven.
yeah. Yep. Definitely heaven.
Yeah, Earth, man. What a beautiful fucking place to live. I mean, I have all these wonderful photographs that I use for, screen, for my computers. And I just, all day long, I've got pictures of the most beautiful places on Earth. It's just a stunning planet.
It is. That I can agree with you on. All right. So let's see. Wow. The hour went by quite fast. But shoot.
Any closing remarks, Brandon?
Well, since Heron came on here, I'm so thankful, Heron, that you decided to join. It's almost like this was like a second interview, practically, which was totally extemporaneous because I didn't even know you would even join. But I guess this caught your eye. You saw it, so
Yeah, I couldn't resist it.
Yeah, we did. Well, I'm glad you joined it because you
Well, I'm glad you were here so I could join. Thank you.
absolutely.
The
Um,
opportunity.
so, I hope for those listening that you gained, some insights into
Maybe
philosophy.
some wisdom.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, some wisdom, even though Terrence said it's just with like a reification. What is wisdom? But let people ponder that. Um, Agree or disagree with Heron. It's all good. And yeah, so that's all I have to say about it. What about you, Chase? Any closing thoughts?
No closing thoughts. Thank you, Heron, for joining.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. The ones that came in and out of the room. I guess, so should I do the countdown?
Yes, we're going to end the room now. It's a pleasure having everyone here. Brandon, give the countdown.
And Aaron, it's okay if I do it in English, right? Or do I have to do it in Spanish?
I have no idea what you're talking about, so
Like, you don't remember the last time we did a countdown?
I
Like
don't remember.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we closed the room?
Well, you're much more of a ritualist than I guess. I just say goodbye and close the room.
Oh, yeah, we could do that too.
Well, listen, it's your room. Do it any way you want.
Yeah, okay. It'll be okay. Let's go. All right. So 5, 4, 3, 2,
Oh, wait a minute.
1.
Don't stop yet.
What?
The same thing happened last time.
No, I'm just fucking with you, man. I just figured, well, let's screw this thing up here.
Well, I did get to 1.
Yeah, I know.
So.
I was waiting until you got to one. I didn't want to. I wanted to get almost to the end.
Great. That's all right.
Before
Are
All right.
you the ritualist, Heron?
I'm an anti. No, I'm a ritual. I'm ritually anti-ritualistic. I think.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank.
So I'm sorry. You want to start the new countdown? I'll shut up.
No.
Or just
Unless
finish it off with 0. Do you actually say 0, or how do you do it?
I'll say 0. Can I say
Okay.
0 now?
Okay. Yeah. I won't. I won't interrupt again. Sorry.
Should I just do it over?
Per
Yes.
room.
Count down again and then say goodbye. And then I'll say goodbye.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Let's go. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, and everyone have a great
Good night.
night.
Adios.